Hello, my name is Peter Horrocks. I'm a senior lecturer in architecture at Liverpool John Moores University. In this, my first year of teaching at the university, I've specialised, amongst other things, in enabling students to produce high quality 3D imagery. In my own collaborative work with local artists, I regularly employ the use of 3D scanned objects and textures to enhance architectural and artistic environments. I also combine such techniques with more traditional media, such as model making. I was hoping to use today as an opportunity to take you through some of the projects which we have dealt with this year at John Moores University in conjunction with the students and other collaborators. In the autumn of this year, Liverpool John Moores University will restart the interior architecture course. In the past, this had been a course that always employed very traditional representational and design methods, such as hand drawing and model making. This is something that will of course continue, but the ambition of the course will be to mix this with other digital and more immersive media. In an attempt to engage students with such technologies and mixing of media, we decided to base their first project of the new term around an existing and at threat building in Liverpool called the Fruit Exchange. The scan, which you see here, was taken over a period of weeks. The idea will be that the students will get used to the technology themselves of being able to scan a building, look at the textures, examine the internal environment, but also extract three-dimensional information from the building and take that into their own work and allow them to produce their own environments and present their own work in an immersive manner. A key component of their first term will be looking at the building in detail, producing their own schemes, and effectively presenting from within their own proposed schemes. This building was chosen for a whole number of reasons. Not merely for its suitability to interesting interior architecture, but also because of its dilapidated nature and also its clear past values. The discovery and recording of such a beautiful building has led us to discussions with the City Council about building up a library of interesting or at-risk buildings within the Liverpool area. Our intention would be to build a catalogue of at-risk buildings within the Liverpool and possibly wider northwest area. Our intention in the coming year within the architecture and interior architecture courses will be to employ more immersive representational and design techniques. This is something that would be quite daunting to a new student. This term, we have looked into various methods of hand scanning, photo scanning, and photo scanning with something as simple as a mobile phone. We looked at the possibilities of how a student may take the most rudimentary of models, photo scan it, and produce this as a digital environment that they would be able to use as a design tool for the remainder of their projects. In the Master's course for Architecture at Liverpool John Moores University, there is a live projects module. My own personal tutor group within this module had a particularly tricky task. They were asked to look at proposals for an extremely well-known but extremely dilapidated building within the Everton area of Liverpool. The intention would be, with the correct funding, to resurrect this building as the heart of a community that it once was. With the building being in such poor condition, there was no possibility of entry for locals or potential investors. We, as a university, only had access to a Matterport scan. Our initial problem was how to create a live project brief with so little information and with so little traditional stage-based architectural input. What the students eventually produced was a series of videos overlaid with memories of people from the area that would allow those who had been to the building in the past and those who would want to visit in the future to experience the building. The videos had to cater for those who had limited internet access, limited IT knowledge, and also those who had impaired hearing or sight. In addition to this, the students also learned how to digitally scan and record important buildings. They demonstrated this knowledge in their project summaries. Between them, they developed an excellent and accurate recording of the detail of the building. This will be valuable information in ongoing discussions about saving the building. John Moores University have an ongoing and developing relationship with the World Museum in Liverpool. We recently collaborated with the World Museum on a project which would allow students to aid the museum in the design of some of their new exhibition spaces. This would involve taking the scanned spaces and examining them in 3 dimensions within various pieces of computer software. The museum used this scan and the resulting photography on their website as a way of allowing people to visit the museum even when they weren't in the city. As you can imagine, this has become a very frequently visited site since the beginning of the coronavirus lockdown in this country. Analysis has told us that the museum, in its virtual format, has been visited more regularly by different people than when it were open. That is, of course, not necessarily a good thing, but certainly interesting as we look towards life beyond the coronavirus. This recording and photo scan of the building has proved so useful to the museum. They have now asked John Moores to collaborate with them upon an extensive recording of all areas of the museum to allow for a full visitor experience within their website and to aid in redesign and placement of artifacts in coming years. As with the World Museum project, we have found more and more use for digital scanning and recording of buildings, particularly at this moment in time with the emergence of the coronavirus. Within the architecture department itself at John Moores University, we have employed digital scanning and modelling techniques to enable us to put on a virtual end-of-year show, something that is very important to leaving students who are looking for new jobs. The traditional architectural end-of-year show was an opportunity for students to showcase their work, speak to potential employers, and have conversations about how and where they could fit into the industry. As you saw earlier on, the Fine Art department decided to produce their show in a slightly different way. They wanted to produce half of their show on Earth, with the option of teleporting to Mars to look at some of the other students' work. A lot of the work was recorded in a simple digital scanning way, as we've demonstrated earlier on, and we found this to be a particularly effective and helpful way to experience students' work. The visitor could walk around the fine art show, look at work in an immersive environment as if they were there. They could then look at the rest of the students' portfolio, find their contact details, and get in touch with them. As I mentioned earlier, in the production of the virtual show for John Moores University, we had staggered start times for fine art, graphics and architecture in particular. Architecture is only due to start on the 25th of June, much later than the rest of the departments in the university. Therefore, we had to produce an exhibition that catered for all, one that could take people, come the 25th, to the architecture department. It would allow them to experience students' work. It would also allow people to travel back to previous years' photo scans of the building itself and experience the work there. The idea would be that you could also teleport from one studio, BA, to Masters, and go on a tour of their studio and experience all the students' work. The idea would not be that students would be graded on the work within this virtual show. It is merely a means of them showcasing their work to potential employers, and also to allow people to visit the end of year show, which will of course not be taking place this year. The tour was built in very simple photo tour software. We opted to do it this way as there are obviously some issues with doing something in a fully immersive VR or AR environment online. We simply produced a model of the whole building, placed the students' work in place, and rendered out each of the individual 360 panoramas, which would allow us to piece them together and create the feeling of moving around the studio from one hotspot to another. Our digital show was to examine the relationships between the existing physical environment and the digital environment. We looked to put on a show where people would feel as though they were visiting the building in which the show would normally take place, but also experience an entirely different visual digital world. The end of year show attendee could visit the virtual environment, listen to speeches, look at presentations, but also visit the various departments, such as fine art, who chose in a virtual world to host their end of year show on Mars. They looked at opportunities of students being able to showcase their work in unusual ways and through much more immersive techniques. You could also access the fashion department. It was an opportunity not only to look at the students' work, but also to look at other collaborative works between JMU students. The architecture department had a different start date for their end of year show, so we chose to show this in a different immersive environment where one could enter an exhibition that was currently under construction. This will be something that will obviously be developed in more detail come the launch date of the 25th of June. Continuing the earlier themes of the mixing of traditional and digital media, we examined the concept of being able to visit the particular studios, look at physical models and physical drawings on the wall, and then become immersed within the models and drawings themselves. Each student was given the opportunity to provide their own digital model, which within the tour would appear to be a physical model. Then the viewer could actually go inside of the model and go on a short tour. They could also, via the student's work on the wall, access their full portfolio, contact details, and any other information which they wish to get to. This has been my first experience of presenting research at a conference. I've enjoyed putting this video together for you. I hope you found it interesting and stimulating in some ways, and I would welcome any comments or suggestions or input into anything that you have heard today. Thank you very much.